So I thought I'd do something a bit different today. I feel like I've kind of inadvertently got snaffled into making these quite involved videos, which is a good thing. I'm really enjoying it. But a big part of what I wanted to do was to chronicle my progress as a developing artist, with its sort of ups and downs, and make some record of what it is I'm trying to do and how it's going. It's quite hard to do that when I'm out and about and I'm doing a painting or I want to talk about something specifically arty. So I thought I'd just try making something really bare bones, really stripped back, which just looks at like what's going on right now, and make a kind of studio diary. So just to recap, the aim of what I'm doing at the moment is to try and develop to the point where I can make some kind of living from my painting. If we rewind 18 months, I'd had a complete physical collapse from chronic fatigue syndrome, and I had to fold my gardening business. A year and 14 months ago, I decided that I was just going to focus on my painting because it seemed to be something that was helping me to get better and I could kind of get some flow and involvement with. A year ago, I had my first little exhibition in a local shop, and sold my first painting. And I suppose maybe 6 months ago, I thought, right, let's just keep focusing on this. People seem to like the work. Let's see where we're up to. So the outlook at the moment is to try and keep making work, develop my market, and see where we can go from there. So in terms of my plan, what am I thinking? When I started thinking about this commercially, let's say 9 months ago, I thought the trick was going to be to kind of become a local artist and be sort of well known in my town, which is a town called Bollington. It's got 10,000 people here, and I thought, you know what? If I could be like known in Bollington as the local painter who paints Bollington scenes, I reckon there's a market there. But what I've discovered is actually, I don't know if that's true. I've done a couple of local exhibitions, I've got in the local paper, I've got my Instagram, I've had some open studios, and I've done some events with kids, and basically I don't get any footfall and I don't get any contact online. So what's that left me thinking? It's left me thinking that I've got to broaden my scope a bit, which is really why I've started on this endeavour, with the support of my good pal Victor, who's been helping me learn how to actually do this stuff. I'm thinking maybe YouTube is a way of reaching people with whom my particular story as an artist might resonate, and that I can connect and build a relationship and develop an interest in my work further afield than the town I'm working in. So yeah, I suppose that's kind of where I'm looking going into 2024 as a plan. When I did my first video, I did wonder whether it was just all too much and it was going to be too much of a distraction from the painting and just sap too much of my energy. As it happens, I actually think making the videos is really energizing. And I've been like really excited to be out filming. It has something in common with oil painting, that there's a sort of alchemy in the editing process where you can turn something that's this quite lumpen material, like lots of footage of me trudging around the countryside, into something that tells a story. So I've been really enjoying the video making. Yeah, the downside of all this video making, and particularly last week's video where I got thoroughly in over my head, is, I didn't paint at all last week. I've had some other stuff going on, lots of DIY, and one thing after another. But now this week I've got this slight writer's block where I haven't painted for nearly a fortnight, and I now feel some sense of trepidation. So this week I'm going to really bite the bullet. I'm going to have some studio time, get the fire lit. I've got some lovely inspiration from last week's walk, and try and get some paintings on boards. Personally, I'm doing really well, which is great. Obviously, at the back of my mind always is like this sort of spectre of chronic fatigue syndrome, and I'm always pretty careful how I'm budgeting my energies. But actually, the last sort of 6 weeks, I've been super. I've had bags of energy. So I suppose it's kind of the temptation comes to overdo it and try and do too much. So I'm going to resist that. I had one of those experiences at the weekend where it's like a well-meaning person tries to offer me loads of career advice, like like I don't think about this all the time, and I got the suggestion of, why don't you put your paintings up in the local leisure centre? And that's a good question, but I think that goes to this sort of, I think I've got to hold steady with my shift of strategy to try and get out of the town and try and find a bigger market, because I think in a way like the leisure centre is sort of, I just think it's like you've got to be so careful how you spend your time and energy, and I don't think it would be fruitful. It'd be interesting to know what other artists think, but I don't think it'd be fruitful for a number of ideas. One is that I have put work in a cafe before, and I just don't think people go to a cafe thinking like, I'll have a macchiato, a biscuit, and a £400 painting. I don't think it's where people buy paintings. And secondly, I don't know, I think you've got to be very careful how you frame your work, and this goes back to like Walter Benjamin and the aura of work and the power that we give it. I think this might be a Seth Godin idea, that basically people are lazy and they'll think you are what you tell them you are. So if you dress right and you kind of present correctly, and I think it's the same for paintings. If you can get paintings in a decent gallery and up with other recognised artists, even if they're not actually better than amateur art, there's something kind of credo, a magic created from putting them in that place. And I think the opposite applies. I think if you put work up where amateur work's normally shown, even if it's really high quality amateur work, it's not in somewhere that has that sense of like tradition and context and that kind of hallowed nature. I think there's a possibility of kind of undermining your work. And also, it comes to this thing about like distraction. I don't want people to contemplate my work as they're like dashing between the squash courts and the vending machine. I want people to enter into a frame of mind where they come to have some kind of communion with a piece of art, because that's the sort of art I'm making. I'm not painting for like a quick sugary hit. I'm painting for something that is more nourishing, but not necessarily as tasty on the tongue. Anyway, there's a thought. Lastly, if you've been assiduously watching these videos, you would have noticed this pile of unfinished frames following me around from week to week, never to have their final coat of paint on, and this is one of them. It does just need one more coat, but I've had a bit of a thought about framing, because I do make my own frames and it's a really time-consuming process. Ahead of an exhibition, I think it's great. You can really get on it, frame everything, get it ready, take it down, good. But I think on spec, because I'm not actually selling many paintings at the moment, I think I haven't sold a painting since August, which I'm not too worried about, because as I say, I'm like pivoting to this different strategy. But to frame every good painting I paint is an enormous amount of work. So I've had a bit of an idea with these. So what I was thinking is I make frames like this for these, like for the big sort of fat chunky paintings that I was talking about before, like this one, like small paintings on thick white board, and I kind of like how they look like objects, they're sort of chunky objects, and I like the idea of putting them in these big fat frames because I think it makes them more object-like. So I know you've seen these, but just to give you an example, that, because I love how it sort of makes something more of it. And they're small paintings, but they're also kind of big paintings, and I kind of want to make them take up that space on a wall. I don't want them to just disappear. I want to sort of say, look, I'm here, look at me, take note. So the idea with this, lovely little earwig in there. Yeah, my thoughts with this was, rather than making a frame for every painting, is I'm going to buy some sticky back Velcro, put that in the frame, sticky back the picture in, and then I can photograph it, I can put it on Instagram, I can put it on the website, and give people an idea of what the painting's going to look like in the frame, but actually just maybe have 4 or 5 sort of standard frames that fit the different formats that I paint in, and then be able to swap them. And obviously if I sell a painting, I've got the frame, but I'm not too worried about like painting, having like a billion orders come in at once and not have the frames available, because that would be what they call in the trade a high quality problem. Yeah, so that is my little studio update in the second week of Advent. And thanks for watching. Thanks very much for coming along on the journey. I think it's a good thing to kind of pull back that almost irresistible veneer of perfection and professionality, show you under the bonnet, and give an update of where things are up to in a practical sense. So go well, go safely, and see you next time.